So going into closing, man. I mean, I like to give whoever I'm interviewing an opportunity to become the host of the Boss Uncaged podcast. So the show is yours. The floor is yours. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask me?
Yeah, man. One of the question is that, like I said, I I know you, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to come on here is because again, you were one of the very few people that I knew who just thought different. Why Boss Uncaged? And what was the initial perspective, and how did it evolve? Because I know for a fact that you had an initial perspective on things
Very true.
that is entirely different from what it is now. So what was your initial perspective, and how did it evolve?
I think it's kind of like looking like a cocoon or a good representation of like a caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly. So
Mm,
it was kind of like I was stuck at a caterpillar stage for so long underneath like my cerebral brand. Like I had cerebral media, cerebral graphics, cerebral 360. I still own them. I still own the trademarks for all that. But I was so stuck in being like the cerebral, like if you think about X-Men and Professor X, cerebral, 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 cerebral. And I was just like, to your point, nobody else in the damn world thinks about cerebral as even a damn character in X-Men.
mhm,
So how the hell am I supposed to communicate this brand and communicate what I want to do when people can't even comprehend what the hell it is?
mhm.
So then I was like, I kind of had to like reinvent that and rebrand it, and it took me literally having a stroke to kind of wake up and been like, I've have all this content, I have all this information, I think differently, like you said, but my packaging was wrong, and I had
Mm,
to let go of that packaging. And I had to rebrand. I was like, what's something I could rebrand this packaging that makes it comprehensible to the layman, but makes them think outside the box. And I was like, okay, boss. By default, the definition of boss is universal, and again, being uncaged. And when I think about boss and cage, and if you even look at the icon and the logo, I still think cerebral. I'm thinking about the cerebral
yeah.
logo on the door. I'm thinking about being inside of that cage and breaking out of it. And I was like, let me just redefine that as being boss and cage. So it was more literal, but the reality is that I just took cerebral and skinned it.
Mm, got you. You made it. I I always say this word. You made it digestible
Correct.
for people.
Yeah. Even down to
Yeah.
the character count. Like it was funny. I was on an interview one time, and I was like, thinking about phone numbers. Phone numbers is like the most universal thing that someone can memorize, right? So essentially,
Uh-huh.
you have 7 digits, or you have 10 digits, or you have 11 digits, or whatever it is. So I was like, I needed to have a paraphrase word that could fit in as a phone number and be broken apart into small parts. So the boss is essentially a four-letter word that a 5-year-old could spell out, and then
Uh-huh.
uncaged being like, you know, 7 letters, much like a phone number, is easy to digest. And I was thinking about it logically like that to be like, hey, cerebral, people can't even spell that damn thing.
Yeah.
So Boss
Yeah.
and Cage became like a uniformity, and then like the icon and the logo, like the story behind that was literally I was at a co-working space, and I was sitting down working, and I'm looking at this whiteboard, and there were four arrows, and there was a red dot, and all the arrows were red, and the dot was red, and they were fragmented. They were like all over this whiteboard, and that was the only thing on the whiteboard. And I'm like, you just working, and you're like, and I was like, what if? And then I went up to the board and I grabbed the arrows and I pulled them together and I grabbed the dot and I was like, holy shit. Like that thing represents so many different things. It represents being internal, then exploding external uncaged. It represents like kind of like the singular wireless. It's kind of like a person jumping out. And it's like there's so much different symbolism that you could read from these four damn simple shapes. And then once I kind of created that illustration, I sat on that logo for like at least 6 years before I rebranded and came out with S.A Grant with that logo in there. And then
Uh-huh.
finally, it then led into Boss and Cage. But I've had that logo for like at least 8 years just sitting in my archives.
Isn't that crazy, man? It's like the things that it's like you broke down the Da Vinci Code, but yet again, it wasn't the right time for people to see it. Like, man,